So of course we've got Python up and running on our system now, but we need to look at creating scripts. So we're going to look at editing our Python scripts and seeing what tools that we have and what Python scripts actually are. Well, they are simple text files. Often they will have the extension .py for Python. If we're using something like Windows, then we can use a text editor like Notepad to create our scripts. We probably wouldn't, but if we have Notepad++, we might choose that. It's certainly going to do a better job. But we also have integrated development environments, or IDEs. Now these then take Notepad++ a little bit further, giving us a little bit of help on typing our commands. Common IDEs for Python would include Pycharm and Visual Studio Code. We've already installed Visual Studio Code on our Windows system, and I have Pycharm installed on Linux. So we'll be able to take a look at a couple of IDEs to give you the idea of some of the things that you can look at for creating your scripts. However, for the majority of the course, and we'll see how to set this up later, we'll be using Jupyter Notebooks. This is a web-based solution for both creating and executing your code, and we'll be able to do it through Python modules. For a start though, let's look at editing with Notepad and Notepad++ on Windows. Come on, let's find our Windows system. So here we are on our glorious Windows system. We've already got Python installed on this, so let's open up our very simple system text editor, Notepad. Now Notepad is okay, it is a text editor, but we're going to see some of the limitations. First thing I'm doing is I'm going to make sure that I save this with an extension of .py. So I'm going to call it hello.py. And also to try and prevent the system calling it hello.py.text, I'm going to put quotes around it and save it as all files. So this should now be stored as hello.py. Even with the Python extension .py, we can see that print is not being coloured in any way, shape or form. Print is a built-in function to Python that allows me to print text through to the screen. The text that I want to print should be inside of quotes. So let me open up quotes. Here I'm using single quotes, but I could use single or double quotes. And the argument to print is enclosed within my parentheses, my round brackets. So don't forget your quotes and don't forget your parentheses. But it's starting to look okay, and we should be able to save this and have it work. I don't need you to concentrate too much on the Python at this stage. We will go through this in more details much later in the course. But it's good to just get ourselves up and running and understand the difference between our editing options. Let's now open up PowerShell and move into our documents. I can list the contents of this directory and we can see there the hello.py file. So we should be good to go. Python is an interpreted language. So I use the Python interpreter to execute my script. So I can then go through and use python.hello.py and we can see there that we've got our hello world. The dot in front of the script name is just saying it's in the current directory. Now let's go through and close it inside of Notepad and see the difference with Notepad++. Notepad++ we've already installed, but you would probably have to install this on your system. If you remember, when we installed Python, we installed Python, Notepad++, as well as Visual Studio Code. Let's go through and open up our file. As we navigate to our file, when we open it, because it's already got code, and because it has the .py extension, Notepad++ knows a little bit about this file. So we can see there that print is coloured in brown, we've got our parentheses in red, and we've got our highlighted text. But if I take out one of the quotes, we can see then that we're starting to see differences. I put the quote back and now it's starting to highlight correctly again. So we get a little bit of help. But also, look what happens when I start writing new code. If it's keywords to the Python language, so if I create a conditional statement with the word if, we can see I can choose that from a drop-down list, so I know I'm typing correctly. We're going to create a very simple condition to test. We're only going to test that if 2 is equal to 2. If the number 2 is equal to 2, then we run code. We don't use the keyword then, we just have the colon, the 2 dots. Notice now that our code is indented. And this is a really important feature of Python, that indented code runs if the condition is met, if it's true. If it's not, we won't then run the code that is underneath the if statement. I can then type print, and again I can see the word print from a drop-down list. So I'm getting a little bit of help, and I can then print out a statement. Here, just to show you, I'm going to use double quotes. We can use double quotes or single quotes to quote our strings. Ideally, we would use the same quoting mechanism throughout our script. Otherwise, people are going to look at it, why have we used single quotes and double quotes? But Python will allow it. It's just best practice to stick to one style. With that done, we should be ready to save our script, so File and Save. And of course, because 2 is equal to the value 2, our condition is going to be met. So we have both lines printing. But if we go back into Notepad++, and let's just modify the condition, and if we change it to if 2 is equal to 3, and then save it. Now go back and execute it. We're only going to get hello world printing out because obviously the if statement doesn't evaluate to true, so the code indented below the if statement is not going to execute. Now what I don't want you to do is to get too hung up on the code that we've been writing. Sure, you can practice it, but don't worry too much about fully understanding every element. We're really looking at our editors at the moment and trying to get an understanding of why we probably would choose Notepad++ over Notepad if we wanted to use a small and lightweight editor.